Well, for more on Russia stepping up strikes on rebel fighters in the Turkmen mountains, we're joined by Sinan Hatahet. He is Deputy Executive Director at the Omran Center for Strategic Studies. Now, Sinan, thank you very much for joining us. How do these recent developments affect the fighting in Syria?
Well, it's a bit early to come to clear conclusions. For the time being, let me say that the fighters has been accustomed to the airstrike carried out by the Russian jets. Whatever the surprise effect it had in the beginning is now not of reality anymore. They have been capable of gaining back the territory they lost in the beginning of the airstrikes to the regime forces, and so far, let's say, it's back to whatever it was before the intervention of the Russians right now.
And just tell us about the fighters there. Do they have anti-aircraft weaponry? Are they able to take on these jets in any way at all?
No, they don't have any kind of this sophisticated weapons. This has been actually one of the many asks they had formulated over the last 5 years in order to protect the civilians from the airstrikes carried out by the regime before and now the Russians. And there is no actually possibility in the foreseen future that they will get any kind of this weapon.
So what kind of support do they need?
Well, obviously they have worked very closely over the past year or so with the regional backers of the Syrian revolution. They have asked primarily to establish a non-fly zone in the north in order to create a safe haven for the civilians who are most impacted by the war in Syria. They are also asking for sophisticated weapon in order to stop, the advances of the regime as well as the Russians, and they are clearly asking for, a step up from the Security UN Council in order to issue some clear resolution to stop the ongoing war and to prevail Syria to a democratic regime that answers the aspiration of the Syrian people.
Now, you mentioned these civilians there.
Yeah.
We are hearing that hundreds, if not thousands, are fleeing across the border to Turkey. What can you tell us about the situation that's going on there currently?
Well, this, especially when we're speaking of the Turkmen mountains, as well as the regions adjacent to the Turkish border, this has been a relatively safe zone over the past 2 years. A lot of internally displaced persons from all over Syria actually came to find refuge in this area. This was actually one of the most secured areas in Syria, also an area where actually some of the Syrian refugees that came to Turkey are returning to. And since the Russian strikes started in September, this was one of their favorite spots to target, maybe to put pressure on the civilians, but most probably also to put pressure on Turkey. And indeed, this has been witnessed a humongous flow of human to Turkey, finding refuge, and there are the worst conditions. And what makes things even worse, that this winter is next door, and the recent experience has shown us that it's actually one of the worst things that can happen to the IDPs present in these areas.
Sinan Hatahet, we must leave it there. Thank you very much for coming in, joining us and talking to us today. Thank you for that.